The wind off the cliffs did not sound like wind at all. It sounded like a warning. Like the land itself was telling her to turn back. She stood there, one hand pressed against her swollen belly, the other clutching a dull chisel, staring at the dark slit in the rock. People would later say this was the moment she should have given up. But this was the moment she decided to live. Her name was Mara, and winter in coastal Canada had come early that year. The small logging town below the cliffs had shut its doors to her weeks before. A pregnant woman with no husband, no savings, and no family nearby was not a story people wanted to be part of. Shelters were full. Jobs disappeared with the season. Each night, the cold crept deeper into her bones, and each morning she woke up wondering if her baby felt it too. When the last couch offer vanished and the snow began to fall sideways, the cliffside became her only option. The cave wasn't really a cave at first. It was a shallow wound in the rock, barely deep enough to block the wind. The stone was cold and unforgiving, and every strike of the chisel sent a sharp pain through her wrists and up her arms. She worked slowly, breathing through the strain, pausing whenever the baby kicked as if protesting the madness of it all. Fear lived in her chest constantly, fear of falling, fear of collapse, fear of bringing a child into a place like this. But fear was lighter than the certainty of freezing outside. Days blurred into each other. She learned the rhythm of the sea below, how its roar softened at dawn and grew angry at night. Her hands blistered and split. Blood stained the rock more than once. Still, she carved. She widened the space inch by inch, enough to sit, then enough to lie down. She lined the floor with driftwood, pine needles, and scraps of cloth scavenged from town dumpsters under cover of darkness. Each small improvement felt like defiance. Each night she survived felt like a quiet victory no one witnessed. Loneliness pressed harder than the cold. There were moments when she talked to the stone just to hear a voice. She spoke to her unborn children, telling them stories about forests, lakes, and summers that smelled like rain and fresh-cut wood. She promised them warmth even when her breath fogged the air. She promised them safety even when the wind screamed through the cliff face like it wanted to tear the promise away. The real challenge came during a storm that locals would later call one of the worst in years. Snow fell so thick the world disappeared. The sea rose violently, waves smashing against the rocks far below, sending tremors through the cliff. Inside the cave, water seeped through cracks Mara hadn't noticed before. She spent the night awake, bailing water with a cracked plastic container, her back screaming in pain, her body heavy and slow. At one point, she cried silently, convinced she had finally pushed too far. But morning came. It always did, and when it did, she discovered something unexpected. The deeper she had carved, the warmer the cave stayed. The rock held heat. The wind couldn't reach her anymore. She adjusted, learned, adapted. She built a small stone lip at the entrance to block snow. She learned which cracks needed sealing with clay and moss. What started as desperation slowly became design. Months passed. Her belly grew, and so did the cave. It became a nest, not beautiful, but strong. On the day her children were born, during a quiet snowfall, the cliff held firm. Wrapped in layers of salvaged fabric, listening to the steady heartbeat of the earth around them, Mara cried again, but this time from relief. She had done what no one believed she could. Spring eventually thawed the coast. Hikers spotted smoke from her small fire and reported it. When people climbed the trail expecting tragedy, they found something else entirely. A mother, 2 healthy babies, a shelter carved by hand, by will, by love. The story spread fast. The same town that once turned away now brought supplies, then offers, then apologies that felt too small but still mattered. Mara didn't speak much to the reporters. She didn't frame her story as bravery or strength. She simply said she had no other choice, and that sometimes, when there is no door left open, you carve one yourself. If you ever stand on those cliffs today, locals might point to the rock face and tell you about the cave that saved a family. They'll talk about survival and hope, but they often forget the most important part. That when the wind was loudest and the world laughed or looked away, a pregnant woman picked up a tool, faced the stone, and refused to disappear. And that is where this story truly begins.